Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 46 of the In From Japan podcast, the podcast where we talk about the latest news on Japan-developed games and other things in relation to them, available on YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. As always, I'm your host, Erroll Moss, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the phenomenon from Suriname, Jason Corder.
Hey, hey.
And today we have a very special guest, Mario Rivera from DualShockers. Yay!
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, hey. Nice to have you here. In case no one knows who the great and illustrious Mario Rivera is, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I am the video manager at DualShockers, where I am in control of the content that you see on the YouTube in terms of the videos that get put out. Some of them are edited by me, created by me, but also with my illustrious team that I have control over, who also make really wonderful pieces in terms of basically. We take a lot of the articles that are on our website at DualShockers.com. We convert them for the visual medium, and we sometimes do our own spins, our own goofs on them. And then, of course, we are doing a lot more discussion videos where we're having just general conversations about games and gaming in general. So that's a lot of what's been going on the YouTube side of things. When it comes to me personally, I'm at that Mario Rivera on Twitter. I've been featured currently on IGN, GameSpot, Kind of Funny Games, and then of course just recently What's Good Games. So been pretty busy this last couple months.
You've been all over the place.
All right, nice to have you with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am a fan of Japanese games, so I'm glad that we are here.
Well, you came to the right place then.
I mean, you know, when somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking to get on some podcast," I jump at the chance. Hey.
Yeah, anything to just have conversations, honestly. I mean, just to be able to talk to new people in the world, especially joining, the games industry in such a short period of time. It's been nice just to have opportunities to have conversations. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
especially with the current state of the world and everything.
Exactly. This is the primary way to do so.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with as we always do with the Japanese games we've been playing, and we went in a weird order last week, so we're gonna actually let you, Mario, our guest, go first, because that's what we usually do.
Sure. So it's been an interesting week because it's been PlayStation 5 launch. So
yeah,
a lot of games have been on the back burner. I've been trying a lot of the newer stuff, but I guess like the first major Japanese game I think I got a chance to is actually Astro's Playroom.
Oh, nice.
Which is heavily influenced and created by Japanese creators, working within PlayStation, of course. And it's just a love letter to PlayStation. Absolutely adore every minute of it. It's a very short experience, but it gives me hope that they'll eventually, do more in the upcoming. They actually have a nice little message when you beat the game that says, "Hey, don't worry, there will be more." So that actually warms my heart.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, a lot of reference to, of course, the history of PlayStation in that game, as well as references to third-party games from the history of PlayStation. So real cool stuff. That's primarily the biggest game I'd say I played recently. I have been dipping my toes back into Persona 5 Royal, only because I beat the first one. Yeah, I beat the first one, of course, and I'm just trying to get through all the stuff on now on the PS5 to see how that story shakes out with all the new content.
Yeah, how's it running? Are there any compatibility issues so far?
So far, I haven't noticed anything, and honestly, there's not. As much as I was hoping that there would be a big boost to a lot of the PlayStation 4 games, I guess that they don't have a patch ready for it just yet, because I haven't noticed anything majorly different, including load times.
Okay.
Because, and I've played other PS4 games that also don't seem to have, like, major differences. It's funny, because I'll hear these reports of, like, what was it, Until Dawn now runs at 60 frames per second. I'm like, oh man, it makes me want to go download all these experiences to see them. But I'm curious.
I think they're probably targeting first party or second party titles for the time being. That would make sense to me, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm curious if eventually they'll make it to Persona and some other games that I'm really excited for. But until then, and I think the major last game that I've played actually was I got to play Resident Evil 7 all the way through for the first time.
Nice.
For Halloween, so that was a spooky experience. I did it on my Twitch channel. That Mario Rivera.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to spoil too much of it to preserve the spookiness for
Too
Erroll.
scary for me.
Yes.
Too scary for me.
I'm curious. Did you experience a shift in the tone near the end? Because it for me it went from crazy spooky horror in Southern America to something kind of stranger.
I would say that it starts off spooky haunted mansion, and then it ends up being very much like a badass simulator near the end, because once you get every possible gun option, you're no longer scared of the bumps in the night.
Yeah.
Because you've dealt with majority of the things that are scary by that point. There are some fun twists that are laid out later in the game, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely a switch where you go from being spooky scary. Once you've like dealt with that which is like feels like in the first few hours, then it just once you get the grenade launcher or something, you're like, all right, cool, I can fight anything that comes my way.
You suddenly turn into the Terminator.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Erroll, what have you been playing this week?
Oh, I thought he was gonna mention the other game he was playing, and then since you're also playing it, we'd go to you instead.
Okay.
Just because it's a better. But if because this also says you've been playing Yakuza 0, right, Mario?
Yeah. So I just started. So I basically I'm only like in the first chapter or so. I love Kwame 1. So I decided to go back, finish 0, and then move on to 2. So I'm making my way through. Since Yakuza 7 is not on, it is on PS4. It's not on PS5 yet.
No.
And if you buy the PS4 version, you do not get your saves transferred to 5. So I'm willing to wait on that one until it becomes PS5.
Well, look, at least you don't have my problem, which I have the game for my Xbox Series X, but my Series X, every time I try to run it, it shuts down.
Oh, no.
Other games, smaller games, work fine.
Interesting. I'm hoping they get fixed out.
Don't know if it's a firmware problem or what. Well, I'm just going to, if I don't have, because I did call support and they said, oh, try another disc, and I don't have another disc. So okay, I'll buy Man-Eater because it was like cheap on Best Buy and it has a next-gen version. So I was like, okay, if that has problems too, it's like, well, even if it does or doesn't have problems, if Yakuza still has problems, I might just, I don't know if I can wait because there have been a few updates already that haven't helped. So, I might just bite the bullet and download the PS4 version on my PS5. Like, I don't mind if there's no save transfer because it'll still be on my PS5.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I can actually play it instead of just having a disc sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for someone who, in your case, for someone who's probably played a bunch of them,
I have not.
What was it? You haven't?
I have not. This is going to be the first that I
really?
try to play all the way through. Yeah, because the gameplay, it was always the gameplay that, like, it's not that I don't like the gameplay, it just, like, never fully clicked, and I like turn-based.
Okay.
That turn-based change is, like, perfect for me.
Got you.
Yeah, and
I mean, I enjoyed the gameplay isn't the thing that I think that draws me to Yakuza either. I think it's the silly side quests and how bonkers the story gets. So I'm just like, I'm willing to wait for 7.
Okay. I mean, there are plenty of games in the series to go through in the meantime.
Yeah, and I want to get through the collection eventually. And like I said, Kwame's on Game Pass, so I can play it that way too.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jason, you've also been playing Yakuza 0. Are you also just at the start?
No, I'm in chapter 7, it turns out. I haven't played in probably a year plus.
So you're just getting back to
Yeah,
it.
I figured, okay, I'll start it up again because everyone's talking about Yakuza 7, and I've kind of been developing FOMO since I can't have a next-gen console. I could get Like a Dragon for PS4, but I also figured, okay, but I have 0 and Kiwami 1. Why not get through those and eventually work my way up to Like a Dragon and wait till it gets cheaper? It's a win-win for everyone.
True.
Yeah.
So I decided to dive back into Yakuza 0. I figured, okay, I'll just try to get familiar with the story and the characters, and turns out I didn't forget all that much. So I started with Majima in Chapter 7. Kind of past the introductory level with him, and now I'm just exploring and getting my bearings, and it's been a lot of fun. I was only intending to play like half an hour tops, and that quickly turned into me being knee-deep into the hostess minigame. So it's safe to say Yakuza 0 has its hooks in me.
Yeah, it happens.
And I'm really enjoying it. I can see your point, Erroll, where the combat wouldn't hook you all that much because it's pretty by-the-books brawler combat.
Yeah.
But it's everything around it that makes it so good. It's the storytelling, it's the characters, it's Majima being best boy, probably, at this point.
Yes. 100%.
100%. And yeah, that just lifts the game up to something else. And you kind of overlook the little things, like combat not really being all that great. But that's just been me.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess I'll go next. So, Jason, remember how last week I said I was having trouble with, I mean, not trouble, but I was saying the Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes game is a little too easy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke too soon.
What, did it just get a huge artificial difficulty bump or something?
No, I fought against some more bosses and they kicked my butt. I had to bump down the difficulty and even then I just barely beat some of these bosses. Like there was this one dude who what did he do? He jumped around he was like a grasshopper guy. Also I was playing as a different Kamen Rider now because you start as Kamen Rider Double, who's pretty fast just normally, and then you go to Kamen Rider O's, who's his normal form, which is the only form you have when you at the beginning with him, is a bit slower, so it's a bit more challenging to fight bosses with him. But then once you beat those bosses, you get forms that correspond to their powers that are really useful. But then you'll get to the next boss, and the next boss will still be pretty challenging even with those new forms.
Okay, so is it like a game where you'd have to grind and level up to get stronger?
You can't really grind. No, you can't really grind because you're on like a set path. You go from one point to the next.
Okay.
I thought about trying to do that, but it didn't really make a difference. It's weird because most of the standard enemies are like always pretty easy, and then there are a couple bigger enemies who take a little longer to take down, and then that you just have to get used to. And then there are the bosses. But it was crazy because there's this other boss who's named, I think his name was Kazari, and he's like a leopard guy. And he has super speed and can throw tornadoes at you, and it was pretty hard to dodge his attacks. But the form you get was after beating him, you don't get tornadoes, but you get like a super speed thing, so you can run around faster for a limited time. And then I also just got the last Kamen Rider 01, which is he's from the most recent Kamen Rider series that finished airing. Okay. And he's also fun, but he had all his forms when I unlocked him.
All right.
And then I'm still missing 2 forms for, I think I have all of Kamen Rider O's forms, and I think I'm still missing 2 or 3 forms for Kamen Rider Double. And then there's another one I didn't know there's a fourth Kamen Rider you could play as called Kamen Rider XL that has he kind of has like an engine sword that he revs up.
That's nice. Kind of like Nero from Devil May Cry.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. But I have been having fun with it.
Okay.
So it's just that I spoke too soon with the difficulty level.
I think you'll be fine. Just maybe.
Yeah, I'm probably almost done.
Yeah. See, you'll get through it. No sweat.
It's just the bosses take longer than I expected, and it can be frustrating. I always just barely beat them when I do.
That makes it all the more
it's
gratifying.
like I'll be at 1 health, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, okay.
At least you're having fun.
Oh, also the one thing I noticed is the dodge window, or not the dodge window, the counter window is super short when you do after you do a perfect dodge. You have to you gotta press circle like right after that happens, or else you're not gonna get it.
Okay. Oh, I mean, yeah. Well, that's unfortunate.
And then. Oh yeah,
no. I was gonna ask: is there no way to tweak that dodge window, like a power up?
Not that I
modifiers?
can see. There's, I mean, not any modifier that I have.
Okay.
And also you can only equip them with each Kamen Rider with one thing at a time.
Oh, okay.
At least where I'm at.
Okay.
So you have to really pick and choose. But besides that, I was trying Bobble 4 Friends The Baron Is Back, which is basically what they did is in the hard mode, in the hard difficulty, they changed the arcade cabinet that usually has the arcade Bobble into a mode where you go up a bunch of levels in a tower and you have no health recovery and no extra lives. It's kind of just like an extra challenge mode. I got to like floor 7 before I died.
Okay.
But it can be really annoying because since you don't have any power-ups, you can die really fast. Luckily, I usually have around 7 lives, so I can get through a couple floors pretty easily.
Yeah.
Just certain enemies are very annoying, like the ones that bounce all over the place.
Mario, if you haven't noticed, Erroll has a very distinct taste in very niche games, so I hope he doesn't startle you too much.
No, it's fine. I'm familiar with, of course, Bobble and Kamen Rider, just as never as video game. Or Bobble is a video game, and not as Kamen Rider is a video game. So it's interesting to hear about.
Well, yeah, this is the newest one, and it actually had a Southeast Asia English localization. So I just imported it because I'm like, well, it's a stylish action game. And before that, they were doing the Batride War games, were like Dynasty Warriors like.
Nice.
I don't have any problem with Dynasty Warriors. I just like that didn't interest me as much.
Sure.
So I was like, yeah, I'll try this one. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
And I'm seeing you have general PlayStation 5 impressions.
Yes, you're right.
So
you're right.
you have your hands on
PlayStation
PS5.
5 has been good. Has been working much better than my Xbox. Let's say that. I can say that much.
Okay, so you haven't run into any compatibility issues or rest mode issues that I've been reading about on the internet?
The only issue I ran into was I was sitting in bed trying to watch Netflix or something, and I was like pressing I could press X to start the app, but then when I got to the app I couldn't press X again, and then I realized, oh, the signal's not reaching.
Okay, that's odd.
Oh, you're too far away from your console?
There was something blocking it.
Wow.
That's interesting. Too. You're like straight up
when I just like once I adjusted it a little bit, it was fine.
Okay. I mean, it's like
so I was freaking out for nothing. I was freaking out over nothing. I was like, oh
like
no, not my PS5 too.
It's like you're beta testing both next gen consoles at this point.
Yeah.
Early adopter, baby.
Yep.
That's not what I usually do, but you know, when in Rome or in pandemic, I don't know. Okay, anyway, we're going to move on to the In From Japan J-List, where we talk about recent video game-related entertainment news. And we have 2 different pieces of news regarding that. So there was a new Monster Hunter movie trailer that featured more monsters and the Meowster chef. And what?
It was a lot better, I'd like to say.
Yeah, it looked like it focused more on the actual monster hunting and not on the military stuff and the people from another world.
Yeah,
coming
if
in.
they led with this, it would.
I think the military stuff is just at the beginning. I think.
No, that's sure.
It's just that, it's never been a part of Monster Hunter to begin with. If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
right? It's the fact that it's literally the plot of the Super Mario Brothers movie,
or the Smurfs, or that, or who, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just made Monster Hunter Isekai, so thanks, I guess. But yeah, if they led with this trailer instead of the first one, it would have been a far warmer reception, I feel like, because this trailer features a lot of fun that the first one was missing. And when I think about Monster Hunter, I think about fun. I think about seeing things that appear to be normal but aren't normal, and having a Meowster chef that kind of is frightening and adorable at the same time. So
very muscular, very muscular.
And flirty.
Yes,
like Monster Hunter, although there are some frightening monsters in it, it's not like a super serious, it doesn't take itself super seriously, you know? So it's like, it's better that there's a more like comedic, there's a little more of a comedic element to this, or seemingly.
Yeah.
Than there would be in, like, say, a Resident Evil movie, which would be by the same director.
Well, it's tough, because having a horror movie with action might not land well for audiences. I think that's what the executives were thinking back in the day.
Yeah.
So let's crank it up to 11 and make it a straight action movie. And I think that bled into Resident Evil 5 and 6 as well, unfortunately. But yeah, I think this is a bet.
I love Resident Evil 5.
I mean,
that's the first one I played, and I had a lot of fun with the co-op.
Resident Evil 5 is a decent choice.
I played that for the first time this year as well, and I'm not as high on it as I was.
Wow.
Other games, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
I played 6. That's worse. So don't worry.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
I watched my friend play 6, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I did a little odyssey where I went through all the Resident Evil games pretty much this year. 2, 3, 4. Of course, I've never played 4 all the way through except for this year. 5.
Nice.
Played 6 years ago only because it was co-op, and I was like, I played the whole thing. I don't know why I did that. And then ended with 7. So, but I'm also afraid to admit that I'm a little bit of a secret delight that I like those stupid Resident Evil movies. Only because they're so bad, they're good.
Hey, I enjoyed them greatly too.
Look,
especially 4.
Okay,
4 is
look.
my favorite.
I think I don't know how many I watched, but I think the first one is all right.
Yeah, I think it's totally
After
fine.
that,
2, no.
I went to see Extinction in theaters, and I don't know why.
It took me a long time to see Extinction, only because I was like, why are we to the end of the world just desert now? That just sounds terrible. But then they got to 4.
I thought they were in Nevada.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? But then when they got to 4 and how ridiculous it was, especially the ending with the perfect circle fight, I just like, you know what? I turned my brain off. I'm having a good ass time now.
Yeah.
Was that Afterlife?
That's Afterlife, yeah.
Okay, I did see that one, but I don't think I saw if there was one after that. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one is not terrible, but yeah, it's funny.
Speaking of which, Resident Evil first images from new movie set have emerged.
Yeah.
And our guest Mario actually added the story, so I'll let you talk about it since you seem to be the Resident Evil movie fan here.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, Logan Moore wrote it for DualShockers for us. But yeah, it's some of the first Resident Evil remake images. So this is going to be a new movie starring a whole new cast, which we've already know who the cast are. some pretty exciting people a part of this. So I'm very curious. From the photos, though, it's not much. It's literally just still shots of the I'm assuming the plane that actually drops them off at the Spencer Mansion. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, wait. Was this someone with Avin Jogia as Leon? I think it was.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is it's going to kind of condense...
Merge 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, because they have so much interconnectedness. I mean, every Resident Evil mainline title has some interconnectedness, so I'm guessing it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm very curious because I mean I assume they could probably get through the mansion pretty quickly, and then do a focus on. Well, I'm very curious because they're introducing obviously Claire Redfield, Leon, Chris, and of course Jill. Barry I think is also in this, and some other people. Wesker has also been announced, and I'm just curious how they're going to combine both those movies, and then also somehow exclude 3.
What I think is going to happen is it starts with Resident Evil 1, and then they go through the mansion, and then it zooms out. You're thinking, oh, it's only isolated to the mansion, and then it pans over to Raccoon City, and it's overrun by zombies, and that's your opening shot with. Or it's your final shot with Leon Kennedy, and then the second movie would pick up from there and include Jill Valentine also being part of the gang.
Yeah, I'm curious how they'll end up approaching it different. I want them to do it differently. I do not want an exact replica of obviously the games. Yeah. However, I do love the touchstones that they are doing. It's set in the 90s. It's set within the Spencer actual mansion, which is cool. You got all the main players of the original games, but if it could be interconnected where the 4 survivors are together, hey, that's kind of cool. I mean, if it ends up being different, or if they like keep missing each other. Yeah. Because I would like it for Claire Redfield to have that always searching for her brother kind of thing still going on.
So like a horror movie version of An American Tale?
Yeah, sure. I would like that. Yeah. But yeah, I from the images, like I said, you get they're at least being faithful to even like the logos. So I'll take it at face value as something hopefully they're doing well. Again, we're getting a bunch of Resident Evil projects. We got this. We have a TV show, I believe, and about the Wesker kids, and then of course the animated thing.
Yeah, the animated, yeah.
So I don't know how they're interconnected in any way. Yeah.
No, I think the animated one is connected to those animated movies.
Got you.
Ugh. Which I have seen a few of them, and they were fine.
I've seen the one clip that everyone shares, which of course is the gunfight where they're like dancing and not shooting each other at all.
It gets much wilder. Trust me.
Oh, I've watched a lot of it.
All right, so moving on to recommended content, where I just list out content other than news from the past week that I think you should check out. We have The Untold Story of the Bug That Almost Sank the Dreamcast North American Launch by Damian McFerrin over at Nintendo Life. Why Ray Tracing Matters for PS5, Xbox Series X/S, and PC by GameSpot. Starting Screen, Astro's Playroom is Sony's perfect answer to Nintendo nostalgia by Eric Van Allen over at US Gamer. Axe of the Blood God, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts, Melody of Memory, and A Farewell by US Gamer. Just as an aside, make sure to go support the folks over at US Gamer, because a lot of them are being made redundant at the end of the year, so they could use the support. Because they do great work. And then, so moving on, we have Why Some of 2020's Big Games Didn't Get Game Awards nominations by Nicole Carpenter over at Polygon. And then lastly, we have Toshihiro Nagoshi, The Yakuza Years, Archipel Caravan on YouTube. Unless, Mario, do you have any features or any content that you'd like to promote specifically?
I mean, yeah, the Don't Nod preview I did earlier. There's a couple weeks ago, where I got, I got to preview Twin Mirror from the Don't Nod developer, and I got to play the first 2 hours of said game, and I had an interesting time with it. I honestly felt it reminded me, because I'm a huge Kind of Funny fan, and they've been doing in review for different movie.
Yeah.
Specifically, they did Christopher Nolan, so I got to rewatch a lot of early Christopher Nolan films, and it put me right in the right mindset for Twin Mirror, where it's very much like the early films, Insomnia, Following, and even Memento, where it's a sort of a crime thriller. And with a little some Inception, not action.
I was
thought I was
wondering.
talking about action. It's not the action part; it's the actual like ethereal like mind stuff.
No, that's the cooler part to me.
So I would say, go to DualShockers and check that out. Yeah, they just put me on they quoted me actually for their marketing, so I was happy about that.
Nice,
awesome.
Yeah,
get that clout.
Getting some good stuff this year.
Yeah. All right, so next we have the news rundown. So I'll let the bearer of bad news and Shinigami, Jason, take it away.
Bankai. Real quick before we dive into the bad-ish news, I want to give a shout out to Archipel on YouTube. They do wonderful documentaries or short documentaries on pretty much anything that's interesting, especially things that are coming out of Japan, like manga, video games.
I just heard of them today.
They have a lot. Like they have a piece on Yoko Taro. They have a piece on Yoshitaka Amano. A whole bunch of stuff. I highly recommend their channel. So give them a look. Okay. That's all the plugging out of the way. Back to the bad-ish news. Capcom ransomware attack may also compromise user data. This is by Kite Stenbuck, one of the greatest names for Silicon era. Capcom has published a new official press release on November 16, 2020, confirming that the company's network were targeted by a customized ransomware attack from Ragnar Locker. The announcement confirmed reports made a few days after Capcom announced that its internal network systems were compromised by third-party unauthorized access on November 4th, 2020. On November 12th, 2020, Capcom confirmed that a few personal information of employees and former employees, including their passport information and signatures, as well as financial information and sales reports, were definitely compromised. The company also announced that much more personal information and confidential information may be potentially compromised as well. Okay, so there's a whole lot more. If you want to know a whole lot more, click on the article by Silicon Era. What I've seen so far is that customers' data from the Western Hemisphere hasn't been affected all that much. So yay, but just to be safe, you might want to change your password or other sensitive information. This is highly unfortunate. Really sucks for Capcom. And I hope they pull through. I'm sure they will. Okay, next up is former Capcom employees fear for their private data after massive hack on company. This is by Matt T.M. Kim for IGN. A massive ransomware attack on Capcom has leaked numerous high-profile games in development like New Dragon's Dogma and Street Fighter titles. But former employees are frustrated with how Capcom is handling its response to personal information, which Capcom confirmed was compromised as part of the leak. A source close to Capcom who wishes to remain anonymous has shared with IGN that there is a worrying lack of communication between Capcom and former employees who want to find out more about how vulnerable they are following the ransomware attack on Capcom that briefly took the company's data hostage. If you want to know more, give the article a click. I think it was Imran Khan who said that so far they only revealed a tiny fraction of all the data. So that's really worrying if already so much is known. This isn't okay. Don't hack people. Don't put up their information for ransom. That's not okay. That's not cool. Well, that's all the bad-ish news for now.
Yeah.
and we'll try to put a positive spin on things. So bear with me. Next up in the other news.
This is the more interesting part of the that.
Anyway, massive Capcom leak.
I mean, interesting in the more positive.
Yes, hacks are bad. I'm so sorry, but please let's talk about what they saw on the video.
Yeah.
Okay. Massive Capcom leak.
There's this whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Oh well, another thing Imran Khan said was saying like there needs to be a conversation about how like when leaks happen, how to discuss them, and he wasn't saying like anything specifically like how talking about leaks is good or bad necessarily. He just said like there needs to be like an ethics discussion on it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, what the media usually does is wait till it breaks and then report on it. You never want to be the person that breaks this news because there's so much sensitive information here. But moving on, massive Capcom leak reveals Resident Evil 4 remake, a new shooter, and more. This is by Liana Ruppert for Game Informer. Earlier this month, Capcom experienced a massive privacy breach that targeted specific systems such as email and project servers in the form of a customized ransomware attack. The company has confirmed the level to which this leak has impacted Capcom, promising that customer information has remained private through it all. The same cannot be said for possible future game release plans because this leak happened to reveal some big news for the year ahead. A compiled list on Resetera notes which games have been a part of the massive leak, including the likes of a new Resident Evil multiplayer game referenced by Project Highway/Villager Online, an unannounced project for Switch called Guillotine, and more. For RE fans, one of the findings alleges that a demo of Resident Evil Village will debut just before a launch planned for this upcoming April in 2021. According to the emails, it is set for a current gen release as well. Also found in the emails is that Resident Evil 4 for the Oculus Rift could be announced here soon, in addition to the aforementioned multiplayer experience for Resident Evil Village, which is said to have a Battle Royale component to it. Well, good luck to that. Also included in the leak was a new Ace Attorney collection to be released for PS4 and Nintendo Switch players, as well as a few unannounced projects like the new project coming to Switch in February, codenamed Guillotine, in addition to the May release unannounced project called Reiwa. Also unannounced is a shooter multiplayer game called Shield that is reportedly specifically geared for streamers. Okay, so there's a whole lot more. That's just half the article. So give the good folks at Game Informer a click, and
yeah,
then you'll know more. Real quick, Reiwa is the Japanese term for the current era. So
yeah,
that could indicate something that reflects modern day. I don't know what else that would mean, but take from it what you will. Next up is also
again
the Capcom leak.
Take some of these leaks. Take some of these leaks with at least a grain of salt on the thumbnail. Well, especially these next ones, because like we don't know how many of them are actually true.
Well, besides that,
I actually put in the thumbnail.
We also don't know how recent this data is. It could all be outdated. It could all be conceptual. It could all be scrapped by tomorrow. We don't know.
At the same time,
I put
Power Stone. Yay, let's go.
I put just as an aside, I put a in the thumbnail, and you guys will see it tomorrow. But I put a transparent salt shaker, and then I put just like one big grain of salt into it, like in the corner of the thumbnail.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I thought that was fun.
We'll all get to experience that tomorrow. But moving on, we have huge Capcom leak suggests new Final Fight, Power Stone for Mario specifically, Mega Man, and Dragon's Dogma games are coming. This is by Damian McFerrin for Nintendo Life. The fallout from Capcom's recent hack continues. We are now seeing reports which appear to lay out the publisher's release schedule for the next couple of years. And we have to admit, it reads like the most over-optimistic fan-made hoax we could think of. According to the document, if it is indeed legit, will be getting sequels or remakes to some of Capcom's most beloved properties over the next few years, including some franchises many assumed were dead and buried. Here are the edited highlights compiled by our pals over at Push Square. Okay, so you have Resident Evil Outrage Q4 2021, Dragon's Dogma 2 Q2 2022, Street Fighter 6 Q3 2022, Rockman Match. Rockman is the Japanese equivalent or Japanese name of Mega Man for Q3 2022, RE4 Remake Q4 2022, Onimusha New Work Q4 2022, Monster Hunter 6 Q2 2023, and everything else. I don't want to keep repeating Q, so it's all in the far distant future. Okay, Monster Hunter 6 Biohazard Apocalypse, which is interesting because they had Resident Evil Outrage, and now they're switching back to the Japanese name. Super Street Fighter 6 Final Fight Remake, Power Stone Remake, Ultra Street Fighter 6 Captain Commando, Resident Evil Hank. And I have a lot of questions about Hank. Who is Hank? Why is he so threatening? What is Hank? Why is Hank? Interesting to note here is that Street Fighter 6 will have multiple SKUs. It's per tradition, I guess. It doesn't have to mean that there'll be whole new games, just re-releases with added content as they've done so far. Nothing else springs to mind. I could say, hey, this is just conceptual. It's just them planning it out. It doesn't mean they're already in active production. It could mean so much, so many things. And
sure,
didn't they already have another game announced? What was it? During the PlayStation 5 event, the one with the astronaut and the little girl robot.
I was gonna say Ad Astra. It's a movie. There was something I know exactly what you're talking about. I just don't remember what the name was specifically.
Capcom PS5. I'm looking it up. Pragmata.
Yeah, it was Rockbot. Yeah, the one that kind of looked like it could have been a Kojima game.
Exactly. So, at first when I saw it, I was like, Death Stranding 2? Nah, it's too early. But then you could see the RE engine chugging, and that made it super apparent that it was Capcom. But that was great. Okay, so I just got a message from Erroll. His internet crapped out, so we're just gonna have to keep this show moving along while he tries to reconnect. Okay, so Mario, feel free to interrupt me whenever you want with any helpful tidbits or colorful commentary.
Other than I really want to play
Power Stone.
Power Stone and Resident Evil 4 Remake, which, like I said, I just played it this year. There's a lot to love in that game. There's a lot that they could change.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what they end up doing. There's also supposedly a VR mode.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. We'll see how that applies to a third-person game naturally. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean...
And there was a Battle Royale stuff, too? Did I hear that correctly?
I thought we already settled that the Battle Royale genre is kind of done and crowded. Good luck competing against Fortnite, but we'll see. We'll see. That's about it. You didn't play Resident Evil 1 Remake?
I played most of it, and then I got frustrated, and in the middle of the game, I got lost to where I was like, I did not know where the next step was. And so I stopped. I'm in the middle of it.
Let me guess. The tank controls did it for you.
No, it was not even the fact that they were taking... I'm playing the remake on the PS4, so that you can actually do normal controls.
Yeah.
But it was just, for some reason, the puzzle... The next step for what the logical puzzle I had to do was not showing up or apparent. Yeah. So I just stopped.
The logic puzzles in Japanese games aren't always that logical, but I digress.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, next up we have Neo Collection announced for PS5, Neo 2 Complete Edition announced for PS4 and PC. This is by the great Sal Romano for Gamatsu. Publishers Koei Tecmo and Sony Interactive Entertainment and developer Team Ninja have announced Neo Collection for PS5, which includes both Neo Remastered
Okay, I'm
Complete
back.
Edition and Neo 2 Remastered Complete Edition, as well as
Sorry,
Neo 2.
my nephew.
Okay.
Just for the
That
audience
scared the
at
hell out of
home,
me.
my nephew, he
Yeah.
apparently pulled the internet extender out of the wall.
That's nice. That's definitely nice.
This is gonna be annoying to
That's
edit.
exactly what you need.
Okay. Moving the show along. We have Neo 2 Complete Edition for PS4 and PC via Steam. All are due out on February 5th, 2021 worldwide. The final Neo 2 downloadable content, The First Samurai, was also dated for release on December 17th for PlayStation 4. You can click on the article for full details. Yeah, this is great. Neo is an excellent franchise. I've only played Neo 1 and a bit of the Neo 2 alpha and beta demos, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
happy to see Neo is getting some
rewind
love.
a little bit since I missed like the end of talking about the Capcom leaks. What?
Mm-hmm.
So what were you guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
I want a
so-
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Resident Evil 4 I want to play, Power Stone I want, and VR mode.
yeah.
But the part of the leaks earlier was about Monster Hunter Stories 2 and Monster Hunter Rise coming to PC. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to double dip on Monster Hunter Stories 2. I'm a very big Monster Hunter Stories fan.
Mhm.
Well, big Mon game fan in general.
Yeah, it's
So I was like,
practically
yes,
Christmas
more
for
chances
Erroll.
for people to play this series.
Yeah. My my biggest takeaway from the Capcom leak is what the hell is Resident Evil Hank. And secondly, it's I don't know if any of you follow Gaijin Hunter on Twitter. But he had an excellent take on the recent leaks, and I recommend everyone read that.
Okay, sorry about that. Moving on.
That was
And it's also great
most
that
of the
Neo
talk
has
about Capcom.
It's also great that Neo has
It's
save
fine.
transfer. Alright, that is
Next
all.
up is okay. Next up is Switch sold 735,926 units in the US in October 2020, marking the second highest October sales of a game console ever. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. And that delay was because I had to translate that in my head because that's a lot of numbers. Switch and Switch Lites sold 735,926 units in the United States in October 2020, outperforming its October 2019 sales by 136%. Nintendo announced citing numbers provided by NPD. The October 2020 sales are the second highest October sales of any video game console in history, outdone only by the 807,000 units sold of Wii in October 2008. October continues a record-setting streak for Switch as the best-selling video game console for 23 consecutive months in the United States, which is the most ever recorded since NPD started tracking sales numbers. So, anyone worried about Switch still?
Nintendo is doomed
because they seem to be doing just fine. Sure,
I'm kidding.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
kidding.
Keep telling yourself that. I mean,
Yes.
news about the Switch Pro are also heating up, and maybe a revamped Nintendo Online system. Wink, wink. So I'm guessing Nintendo is still going to be having a great time in the years ahead. Next up, we have PS5 sold 118,085 units in the first 4 days in Japan. Xbox Series X and Xbox Series X S sold
Huge difference.
20,534 units in first 6 days. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. Sure, but yeah, I'll get into that later. PlayStation 5 sold 118.
Yeah.
What is it with these numbers today? I have a lot of numbers to read. PlayStation 5 sold 118,085 units in the first 4 days in Japan, November 12th to 15, and Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S sold 20,534 units in its first 6 days, November 10th to 15th, according to the newly published Famitsu numbers. Okay, and in comparison with the PlayStation 4, with its initial sales figures, that was 322,083 in the first 2 days, February 22nd, 2014 to February 23rd, and the Xbox One sold 23,562 in the first 4 days, September 4th, 2014 to September 7th. Okay, so comparatively, they're about the same as last year, with the exception of the PlayStation 4 being the double of the PlayStation 5. Many things could be a factor here. We have a global pandemic to still contend with. Stock would have been low, I'm assuming. And Japan as a whole seems to be moving away from console-based gaming, more to a mobile-based gaming. So I'm guessing Switch and mobile phones would be selling a whole lot more than either of these two giant consoles. But yeah, it's still early days. It's not saying a whole lot. Limited stock and all, pandemic and all. Don't read too much into these numbers just yet. That's what I'd say. Okay. Next up, we have PS5, Xbox Series X game development explained by Japanese creators. This is by Kite Stenbuck for Silicon Era. Famitsu recently interviewed several Japanese game creators about developing games for next-gen consoles such as the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Both consoles are already available in Japan, with the Xbox Series X launching first on November 10th and the PlayStation 5 following suit on November 12th, 2020. Both dates have passed since then, so they're already in the wild. Here are the highlights from some of the creators interviewed by Famitsu. This is Siga, by way of Toshihiro Nagoshi, General Director of Ryoga Gotoku Studio. He says, and I quote, "I'm looking forward to next-gen consoles, and I also want to challenge myself. But in actuality, there may only be a few creators who think, there are things I can still do with last-gen consoles, so perhaps it doesn't have to be on next-gen consoles," he laughs. And also he says, "You must strengthen your resolve considerably when creating a title with next-gen quality as its axis. The resoluteness is completely different on whether you want to make it support or focused on next-gen consoles." I got to think about how awesome Nintendo has become after Animal Crossing New Horizons. I feel like the company and its creators have a different way of being unwavering in their resolution when creating super major titles such as Zelda and Super Smash Bros. Speaking from a managerial standpoint, I feel like Sega has a chance to strengthen its resolve. Let's see, who else has choice quotes? Jun Takeuchi of Capcom, currently working on RE Village, says, "In the PS5 version of RE Village, we can experience things like high-performance guns being easy to shoot, or other guns being difficult to pull the trigger and shoot rapidly." I'm guessing he's referring to the adaptive triggers. If you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of all the quotes, just click on the article.
So that was a good thing to highlight. It's going to be a lot
to cover.
Oh, it's me now. Okay. So next story is Sony reportedly discussed increasing game prices above $70 USD. This is from IGN by Wesley LeBlanc. But there was an update. So Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan has called reports that the company previously discussed raising prices beyond $70 categorically false, but didn't rule out further rises in the future. Speaking to The Telegraph, Ryan was asked about Bloomberg's report, replying, "I can say that report that we were considering higher prices for first-party games is categorically false." However, Ryan made clear that this wasn't necessarily a promise, that PS5 game prices would remain at $70. I'm not making any predictions about anything that might or might not happen in the future. I'm saying that the reports about discussions that we considered higher pricing for first-party games in this launch window were categorically false. Ryan justified the new higher price point, which exists across both PS5 and Xbox Series, by comparing it to other media. If you measure the hours of entertainment provided by a video game, such as Demon's Souls, compared to any other form of entertainment, I think that's a very straightforward comparison to draw. And then there's the rest of the article is just kind of about the report that they maybe were discussing raising the prices. Games are expensive to make, man. We've had them.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad I have a 300 plus library on my PS4, so I potentially don't have to buy anything for
they've
the
been
next few
$60
years, so
for
I'll be
what,
fine.
over a decade now?
Yeah, to compensate the cost of rapidly increasing game development costs, you're gonna have to up the price unless capitalism decides, no, we can cut down our
Which they
CEOs
should.
or executives' bonuses so we can pay for everyone's salary.
Sometimes they do.
They should. They won't, but they should.
Not a lot.
Unfortunately. So yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, it's fine.
You
It's
just
fine.
remind me of the
Everything's
dog.
fine.
So this is fine. This is fine.
Okay. Yeah. Next up is the company behind Switch's HD Rumble is also responsible for PS5 controllers' haptic feedback. This is by Ryan Craddock for Nintendo Life. When it launched back in 2017, one of the Nintendo Switch's many unique features was its new shiny HD Rumble technology. The feature allowed players to experience Rumble in games like never before, and titles such as One to Switch actively made use of it to create gameplay experiences that wouldn't have been possible on past hardware. The Switch's HD Rumble was born thanks to California-based company Emergent's TouchSense Force technology, a form of feedback tech which was licensed to several game companies, including Nintendo. Fast forward to 2020, and it turns out that Emergent is also responsible for the haptic feedback feature present in Sony's latest controller, the PS5's DualSense. Great, I guess. Will Nintendo strike back? I don't think so. I'm guessing Sony
4K
has
Rumble.
the controller game downlock for the time being. So. No.
As my dad used to
I
say,
veto it. I veto it.
I have the new game console where the characters come out and fight you. Yeah, no, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, that would be frightening. Let's not go down that route
like the
yet.
holodeck or something. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Mario, have you experienced the wonder that is the DualSense yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, Astro's Playroom is actually a really solid example of what that controller can do. I think probably the only major example. The fact that you could feel raindrops on the top of your controller while you're playing is pretty spectacular. Or the character of Astro, when he's walking on certain surfaces, you just hear the pitter-patter underneath the controller. So every little function matters when you're playing that game. So I definitely think specifically the controller is just phenomenal for what it can do, especially when it comes to the joysticks. The triggers, and then of course the haptic feedback specifically. But yeah, no, it's all cool that they're all somewhat connected.
It's all connected. It's all coming back together. Next up, we have DualSense PS5 controller support added to Steam Client Beta. This is by Benjamin Maltby for Silicon Era. Newly published patch notes for the latest update to the Steam Client Beta detail the current functionality of Sony's DualSense controller for the PS5. The notes also indicate that an issue with the Xbox Series X controller has been fixed. That's kind of ironic. with Microsoft being a PC company, but okay. According to the post, Steam has added initial input support for the DualSense controller. This means the controller's trackpad, gyro, and rumble are not yet supported. It's worth noting that the notes say rumble and not haptic feedback. There's no word yet on whether or not Steam will eventually support the haptic feedback features of the DualSense controller. Similarly, it is not known if the controller's adaptive trigger will be officially supported on any platform besides Sony, PlayStation 5. I'm guessing no. Sony just wants to drive everyone to their console.
Yeah, so
okay,
Sakuna of Rise and Ruin sales appear to be doing well in Japan. Wait, didn't we have this last week? Or no, that was the Switch was selling better than PS4, but now they're doing even better. This is by Ishan Sadev for Siliconera. Recent sales reports from Japan indicate that Sakuna of Rise and Ruin has done rather well, as retailers have sold most of the first shipment of the game. After 5 solid years of development, Sakuna of Rise and Ruin made its debut on PC, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 4 earlier this week. Developer Edelweiss says most of those 5 years were spent on the intricacies of the game's core mechanic, an incredibly realistic and detailed rice harvesting simulation that makes your character stronger and prepares her for battle. Oh, there's just the stuff about just details about the rice growing. They said people who have played the game remarked on Twitter that its commitment to simulating the rice harvesting process as meticulously as it does caught them by surprise. Some are expressing that they aren't fully on board with just how painstaking the entire process is, while others revel in its uniqueness and are tweeting out screenshots and captures of their rice fields. A bunch of players have even found their way to the website of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries in Japan, where they're following an actual rice growing guide to grow rice in the game. Meanwhile, the agricultural I cannot say that industry appears to have spotted an opportunity to stir up word of mouth as well. Shinmei Holdings, a Japan-based manufacturer and distributor of rice products, recently spoke to Edelweiss about Sakuna's development process and is presently conducting a Twitter campaign offering followers that retweet a chance to win 2 copies of the game and 2 kilos of rice. Shinmei also pointed Twitter followers to US Mirai Juku, an e-learning film dedicating to teaching rice cultivation in the event that the game inspires someone to take up rice cultivation as an actual career or hobby. Over in North America, there's no real indicator as to how well Sakuna is doing. We know that the Switch version saw twice as many pre-orders as the PS4 version prior to release, but that doesn't really give one a sense of how the actual launch numbers look. The game moved its way into the early 20s in the eShop bestsellers list over the weekend, but again, that doesn't tell us much in isolation either. One will just have to wait for publishers Xseed and Marvelous to issue a statement once sales reach a satisfactory level. This game's growth is crazy.
Definitely. I hope that wasn't a rice pun, but okay.
Maybe it was. I do plan on playing this. I played it like a demo of it 2 E3s in a row, and the first one was just just had the side-scrolling part, and the second one had the rice farming in it, and that was really interesting. It's a game that I think people should keep an eye on, because I think it's likely to be ignored because of all the other big games that have come out recently. And it's always fascinating to see how certain games, when they have certain mechanics that are true to life, that they affect how they can affect those types of things, you know?
Well, it's a charming, lovely game, and I hope I have enough time one of these days to play it.
Alright, so this next story, Star Smash is a new Disney mobile game launched in Japan. This is by Kite Stenbuck for Siliconera. X-Flag has launched Star Smash, a new co-op Smash action game featuring Disney characters on mobile devices in Japan. So have you seen this, Mario? So this is an anime...
No,
like
actually,
a very anime game where they're basically these anime characters are playing this futuristic like tennis tennis-like game where they summon Disney anime-ified Disney characters that give them different abilities. And like there was a commercial for it, and it basically was an anime opening. And like they came out a week or two ago, and people were freaking out. They were like, "Oh my god!" It does not have an anime series yet, but it does have a manga adaptation. The main gameplay segment involves launching balls by tapping with good timing to destroy waves of enemies. A player can set a deck comprised of characters from various Disney titles, such as The Little Mermaid, Toy Story, Winnie the Pooh, and Big Hero 6. The game can be played as single player or multiplayer with up to 4 players, and it also has an original storyline that can be read with episodic manga releases. Star Smash has its main characters designed by Oh Great, who is most known for Air Gear and also worked on character costumes in the Tekken series. There's stuff about some voice actors. X-Flags has also...
Yeah, he also did the manga for Tenjo Tenge and the manga adaptation for Bakemonogatari. So
X-Flags
really
has also prepared a Star Smash commercial. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
It's interesting. Is it? No, I was just gonna say. It's just interesting that there's these properties that are, heavily Japanese influenced, but have Disney characters and culture and stuff like that, and they're never really fully embraced by Disney. Like, in terms of being an American thing, I mean, I assume that it's probably more heavily Japan related. But, like, for instance, Kingdom Hearts, man. Kingdom Hearts should be doing gangbusters all the time, nonstop at, like, the Disney store here in Chicago, or even there should be a Kingdom Hearts, ride of some sort. Yeah.
I think the problem is it's so tangled up in so many properties and rights. And Disney is very protective of their brand.
Yeah.
They don't allow a lot of leeway, so everything has to go through their approval. That's why.
I just find it funny that they're... Sorry, it's getting very staticky. You hear that?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Well, who knows? It is interesting to see that Disney making a play for the anime crowd when a lot of anime is influenced.
There's another Japan exclusive game called Twisted Wonderland, and it's all these like humans based on Disney characters going to like a magical school together or something. And it's a different type of art, but it's still like, it's very anime, visual novel, anime. What do you call those? What do you call those dating games again? Otome games, kind of like that style.
It depends.
Yeah,
it can be
so
either
kind of like more closer to that art style.
Games.
This is a little more like I don't want to say kid friendly, but like more of an all ages type thing, it seems like. Yeah.
More of the shonen crowd, you
or something. I don't know. Prince of Tennis mixed with like Beyblade.
I mean that tracks. Next up, we have Animal Crossing New Horizons is finally getting save data swaps. Kali Plaggy is celebrating this as we speak. And storage expansion, which I am definitely celebrating. This is by Matthew Olson for US Gamer. Of all the big free updates that Nintendo has released for Animal Crossing New Horizons thus far, this upcoming winter one might have the best mix of new content and quality of life updates yet. Launching on November 19th, the next New Horizons update won't just add seasonal events for the holidays, it also adds in a much needed save data transfer option, new hairstyles, hip reactions, and even a way to expand your home item inventory. The save data swap to a new Switch can work one of two ways, and it may finally help resolve things for households that started out together on one system and one island. You can click on the article for full details and the trailer. This is great. a much needed update, and
it's
I'm
great
happy
for
to see
like the
it's coming.
families who play Animal Crossing and like maybe have multiple Switches and have to, I don't know, they don't have to be stuck. Yeah, they don't have to juggle between things.
Good thing I'm not a
I haven't
parent
played
yet.
Animal Crossing in a while. I was doing the Halloween stuff, and then I was just kind of like, Still great.
I played last week.
Still good.
I'm still enjoying it. It's fun. It's a nice.
I just haven't been in the mood
nice
for
way
it
to
lately.
decompress.
All right, next story is Square Enix launches The World Ends With You related countdown website. This is by Sal Romano over at Gamatsu. Whoa. Square Enix has
It's
launched
easy to mix up.
The
They
World
both
Ends
do
With
great,
You
wonderful
related
work.
countdown website titled Time Limit Within 7 Days, which will end on November 24th. The link to the website was also shared by Square Enix's first production department Twitter account, which has changed its profile picture to the player pin from The World Ends With You and header image to the background of the countdown website. So we already have that World Ends With You anime coming, so is this the sequel that they could be teasing?
Maybe. Could also be light novels
It
or
could
manga.
be. I was gonna say it could be maybe Kingdom Hearts related, only because if I'm not mistaken, there's that ending.
Verum Rex, but that is it's been
Venom
confirmed
Rex
that that's
ending
not
little
the
teaser
same
thing?
Shibuya
Yeah,
as
Venom Rex
featured in
stuff.
The World Ends With You. I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't there like a countdown thing in there too?
It would make sense, right? That's why I was
I
like
just figured
confused
that
when
they
that
might
was
somehow tie
first.
it together, but if
Because
not,
The
it's
World
so
Ends With
cool.
You characters have been in the
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts game before. So like, and I think he said he wanted to
Yes, they
do
have.
the other way around, but we don't know if we'll actually get to see that or when we'll get to see that, or there's all these different realities, and Kingdom Hearts is weird, and yeah, you know you know how it is. Speaking of Kingdom Hearts director Tetsuya Nomura says, I want to drastically change the world and tell a new story, but also tie up the loose ends. We're working towards a 20th anniversary in 2022. This is also from Sal Romano over at Gamatsu. Dengeki Online has published a new interview with Kingdom Hearts series director Tetsuya Nomura to commemorate the launch of Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. During the interview, Nomura shared a few new insights on the series and even commented on a hypothetical new title for PS5 and Xbox Series. The key tidbits are the story reached an end at Kingdom Hearts 3, but there are still some unsolved mysteries and characters. I intend to tie up remaining loose story ends, but also want to change the format a bit. I want to drastically change the world and tell a new story, but also tie up the loose ends. I don't think there will be any situations where you will encounter Xehanort as the main story antagonist. Well, yeah, he's in the sky now. Although the effects he had on the story remain, and you can see that in the story of Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. How much do you plan ahead during development? For example, was the idea of Roxas there during development of the original Kingdom Hearts? Typically, I plan one sequel ahead of whatever that I am working on. When I was working on the original Kingdom Hearts, I was thinking about Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. For Kingdom Hearts 2 and Roxas, I was thinking of starting the game with a new protagonist, but didn't have concrete vision at the time. I wonder what type of game Kingdom Hearts release for next-gen consoles would be. These are like the questions. If we make a Kingdom Hearts game for next-gen consoles, it's going to be released after many other companies have already released their titles, so I believe we'd have to make something that could compete. Of course, that's only a hypothetical since we haven't announced that there will be a new title for PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. 2022 will be the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. We're working to deliver good news, so I hope you'll keep an eye on us till then. So, expect more Kingdom Hearts news in the future?
Yeah, I'm kind of worried that Nomura wants to outgun everyone with his visual prowess with Kingdom Hearts, because that typically does not bode well for Square Enix games. But I digress. Next up is Jump Force DLC characters Yoruichi Shioen from Bleach and Giorno Giovanna from JoJo's
Jason, I have to
Bizarre
ask you
Adventure
something.
announced.
And I ask you this every
Romano
time we have a Jump
Fukumatsu.
Force story. Who is still playing this game?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Plenty of people. It's practically every it has a sale every month.
Because I thought a lot of people didn't like this game.
Interest, enough
because of the gameplay was disappointing and the graphical style was weird.
No. Okay. For those looking just for a fun distraction, it's a great game. For those looking for a deep, layered combat system, this is not a great game. And for those looking for a quality product, which really pays respect to the story and the characters, this might not be the best option. So you can pick wherever you fall into any of those categories. But yeah. Moving on, Bandai Namco has confirmed Yoruichi Shioen from Bleach and Giorno Giovanna from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as the final 2 downloadable content characters for Jump Force Character Pass 2. The characters were confirmed in a message to players regarding a technical mix-up in which the 2 characters were temporarily released to a small number of Jump Force players. You can click on the article for full details and a full message from Bandai Namco. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really tempted to just buy.
Like I said, I'm gonna wait until all the characters are out. Whatever.
Have fun.
Mario, are you a big?
I mean,
Mario,
if you buy the
Ultimate
Edition,
I mean, you're on this podcast. I assume maybe at least a little.
I don't know. I mean, I would say growing up, I was a lot more an anime fan, and honestly, it was the basic. You know, everyone's got their Pokemon, their Yu-Gi-Ohs, their Digimons,
their gateway.
Dragon Ball Z, of course.
Heck yeah!
Everyone's
Ultimate
got all
Muscle
those.
represent. What about some fighting food on?
Probably my favorite. Yeah, Ultimate Muscle.
It was on the same. It was on the same block. It was. It was. It's on Prime.
I think it was still on the same. I'm trying to remember it, but yeah, I would honestly say.
Oh yeah,
I was actually hyped. To be fair, I was hyped for Jump Force. In terms of like having a Smash Brothers version of all these characters I grew up with, and potentially having to be crazy mashups. But the game just was not there for me. And it was on. I think it's still on Game Pass, or it wasn't on Game Pass anymore. But I tried it, and I was like, no, thank you. This is not what I was looking for. Not even on like the base level of like the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Like I'd rather have that than have what we got personally.
Well, I have some good news for you, Mario. There exists a jump fighting game that is akin to Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, I thought you were talking
Japan
about
only for Nintendo DS. So if you're willing to,
great. Are you talking about which one was it?
It's Jump Ultimate Stars.
One?
No. Jump Ultimate Stars. It features 305 characters with
holy shit,
56 of them fully playable. The thing about these games is it's tough to get all the properties under one umbrella because they're spread across so many publishers in the States and in Europe. So that makes it much trickier to get these things right, I'd say. But yeah, Jump Force is what it is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. There are plenty of other fighting games and brawlers to fit your taste. Okay, next up is
Game of the Year.
Based game released in Japan to save lives. And I am not kidding with that headline. This is by Brian Ashcraft for Kotaku. There is a game called Uncore, and it features anthropomorphized anime-style version of intestinal bacteria. So kind of like cells at work, or Osmosis Jones, if you will. While this might seem rather silly, it's not. The goal is to help others, which is driven home with the game's tagline, "There is a life that can save in this shit." Okay, that's an interesting tagline. Unkore sounds like it could be a riff on Kankole, aka Kantai Collection, which features anthropomorphisms of World War II naval warships. Here, though, Un is short for Unko, or poop, in Japanese, and Kore is collection. But this is a free game that doesn't aim to get players to drop money, rather it's interested in other types of droppings. Okay, so you can click on article for full details, but essentially it's kind of riffing on, I think, the stool transplant surgery, because you may laugh at it, but stool transplants can help people with recovery from certain illnesses. And this is just a fun way of educating people, I guess. It's also very Japanese, so...
it's just a story that caught my eye because it was so... I'm like, this is so weird, but it's also beneficial. It's like, Japan's gonna Japan, Yeah. Oh, they won it.
Yeah, I don't know how they make a Western version of this, but the year isn't over
all right,
yet.
Next story. Pokemon Go Kalos release is coming in December. This is by Jenny Lotto for Siliconera. I know we don't usually do Pokemon Go news, but I have a point to this. A new generation of Pokemon is coming to Pokemon Go. It is a good time to be someone who loved Pokemon X and Y. The Pokemon Go Kalos release date is December 2nd, 2020. To start, at least 16 characters from that region will appear. Though if you live in France, that number will be bumped up to 17, perhaps to honor the fact that elements of the region were inspired by the country. Niantic announced people will see more Kalos Pokemon the week they launch, and confirmed a 1-star raid will include a special Pokemon. Here is the confirmed list of Pokemon Go Kalos creatures that will be available right away in eggs and in the wild. If you live in France, you'll also see Klefki, Bunnelby and Diggersby, Chespin, Quilladin and Chestnut, Fennekin. Okay, so all the Fennekin, Braixen, Delphox, Fletchling, Fletchinder, Talonflame, Froakie, Frogadier, Greninja, Litleo, and Pyroar. This is all part of Niantic's Go Beyond initiative for the game. At the end of November and beginning of December 2020, the level cap is going up to 50, and people will start seeing seasons like winter and spring with special events and characters. There will also be a 12 Days of Friendship event until November 30th, 2020 that increases friendship levels, buffs, and the number of gifts you can open. Pokemon Go... Oh, okay. So what I'm wondering is, do you think Pokemon Go will catch up to the current generation before we get to the next set of Pokemon games? I think so at this point. Yeah.
I'd say we're not that far off, right?
Two and the rest of the
just
countless Pokemon.
Two generations away?
I mean, when would the next mainline Pokemon game be out? If
2022, maybe
22, you think?
Maybe if they don't add DLC for Sword and Shield,
because we don't know about remakes and all that.
I see there being. Yeah, and that's what I meant. Like, are we getting gold and silver?
Oh, you mean diamond and pearl? Wait, what? Gold and
Pokemon
silver.
Go,
Let's go. Let's go. Okay.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, like in that vein, like they just did, the red, yellow, and blue with the Let's Go series. Like, why not in that same vein? I personally really enjoyed those games. I thought those were really fun takes, and as much as I love the battle system, I also like battling. Yeah. So I thought that was actually a nice little touch.
I mean, it makes sense with Pokemon Home and the transferring of Pokemon's needing to be a bit easier than what it is now. So, yeah, I'm guessing the Let's Go series might make a return next year.
Especially since, we're slowly whittling away all the old games because people have tried to bring back from the original carts all the way up.
Yeah, exactly.
Making these remakes, to me, I think is a good way to, still be able to capture, those said Pokemon.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have English version of Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers, listed by Asian retailers for February 23rd, 2021. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. An English version of Omega Force developed action RPG Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers, has been listed at Indonesian retailer PS Enterprise, PlayStation 4 and Switch, and Singaporean retailers Kishan, I think Kishan, PlayStation 4 and Switch, and Toy or Game, PlayStation 4, Switch, each with a February 23rd, 2021 release date. The Toy or Game listing specifically mentions the game will support English text with Japanese or English voiceovers. Okay. If we don't get it, at least we can import it, I guess. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So,
next up
Override
is
2
Erroll.
Super Mech League open beta now available for PS5, PS4, and PC. This is once again by Sal Romano over at Komatsu. Hang on. Featuring 8 playable characters. An open beta test for Override 2 Super Mech League is now available on PS5, PS4, and PC via Steam. Publisher Modus Games and developer Modus Studios Brazil announced. It features 8 playable mechs from the full game's 20 mech roster and will run until November 22nd. I don't think that includes the Ultraman characters that I'm hyped about. But I will try it
probably
just
not.
to get a preview of it because I am getting that. I'm getting that Ultraman version. Mario, in case you didn't know, I'm a very big Tokusatsu fan. Not that big, but if you couldn't tell from the Kamen Rider stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, he is a big fan. He's a big fan. He's just
there are a lot of fans way
he's
more
just
into it
being
than
modest.
I am. Low level compared to them, but
Okay.
All right.
The final story for our main news is Demon Souls was reportedly supposed to have an easy mode at some point. This is by Merdad Kayat, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Mario?
Merdad? Yeah.
Okay.
You're pronouncing
This
correctly.
is for Mario's home team at DualShockers. Bluepoint Games creative director says they wanted to add an easy mode to Demon Souls remake at some point in the development process. With PS5 launched last week on November 12th, so many gamers around the world started their deadly adventure in the remake of Demon Souls, a stunning 9th generation of From Software's original game that was launched as a PlayStation 3 exclusive back in 2009. Now, a recent interview with Bluepoint Games reveals some interesting info about their ideas for the remake before its launch, including the addition of an easy mode of the game, or to the game. Speaking to the Washington Post, Gavin Moore, the creative director behind Demon Souls at Bluepoint Games, revealed that they wanted to add an easy mode to the remake of Miyazaki's action-adventure at some point, but eventually they decided to put the idea aside as it could affect the overall balance of the game. Moore said, "The project remakes the work of another development team. While we've made some changes, our core driving mantra has always been to preserve the spirit and intent of the original creators. While we considered and discussed an easy mode, we ultimately decided it wasn't our place, merely being custodians for this amazing game, to add something that would fundamentally alter its balance." Yeah, and on the further mention of accessibility features, Moore says, "We've included an option to switch the audio from stereo to mono, with an added choice to play the sound either on the left or right. For those who experience color vision deficiency, we added the ability to edit the UI palette. Some players are sensitive to certain types of screen movement, so we've included a toggle for motion blur and camera shake." That's really awesome. But yeah, there's once again a discussion on easy mode in a Soulsborne game. Steve Saylor recently put out a YouTube video on his YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. He does great accessibility work in the industry, and he specifically had a talk on Demon Souls, so check that out. But yeah, That was the main
okay,
news
so moving
of
on
the
to our
week.
main topic, we have the Game Awards 2020 nominees from yesterday, well, Wednesday, and people were getting, are starting to get heated about all this. I was talking to our friend of the show
Like
and
clockwork.
also fellow DualShockers alumni. When an alumni mean he doesn't write for them anymore, he definitely still does. Cameron Hawkins, friend of the show. I was talking to him.
You're talking about Cam?
He was saying how like Final Fantasy VII Remake is a masterpiece, and I was like, nah, it's only okay. And he was like, nah, you're insane, dude. I'm like, no, I'm not insane. It's not. It's the children who are wrong.
Well,
No, I know. We were just messing. We were messing around.
He can say it's a masterpiece,
because I've already said enough on this
That's
podcast
fine.
about how it just never fully clicked with me and all my some of my gripes with it. But so like,
What about you, Mario? Where do you stand on Final Fantasy VII Remake?
So I had never played the original Final Fantasy VII. I've only watched Advent Children as my touchstone with these characters at all. But playing Final Fantasy VII this year and getting all the way to the end, I actually found it quite actually fitting my tastes in terms of like what I felt it was giving me.
Yeah.
Specifically in terms of not so as much as it's definitely a Japanese influenced game, but I tend to label things under things that I like, and so for instance, I thought that this movie felt very much in the sense of like a Spielberg film. In terms of the adventure and the gathering of the team, and then the community and the crowd and the actual like set pieces were a lot of fun in those ways. I mean, even the cinematography and the music, like it felt very John Williamsy, specifically. So that's where I took my influence from it, and the fact that. That it was a mix of a Steven Spielberg, it was also kind of like a J.J. Abrams in terms of the new Star Wars and Star Trek. Specifically Star Trek. To me, they Star Trek'd Final Fantasy VII, where, spoiler... I'm not going to spoil the game, but I'm going to just say that things are not exactly the way that you seem from if you are a fan of the original game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought that was so cool. The fact that you can still enjoy the original game on its own merits while also being able to enjoy this for something totally different. And the sky is the limit now where this game leaves off.
Yeah.
So I find that, I mean, the beats still might be the same, but the direction of the people that are going to be there are going to be different. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that's where I generally go, where I'm like, your experience still happens with the original game. This is just the new version of it that is remixed and spinned, and it's just like, hey, it's a retelling of all the characters you like. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. It feels very much like. Now we could get to bad J.J. Abrams with the sequel. But I noticed, for now, I'm just enjoying the ride.
You compare a lot of things to like movies. Do you have a lot of like film background or?
Yeah, that's primarily where I come from. Obviously, doing video games is something I'm passionate for. I definitely went to film school specifically. So movies have always been a big part of my life.
Nice.
So the fact that, when I think of movies and I break them into terms, or video games, I should say, I do think of them as movies as well. So when I see certain character interactions or set pieces or even specifically just motivation, I always tie them to other things. Like when I think of Persona to me is very much in the same way of Goonies in terms of kids, So
like I'm kind of just gonna go over like the Japan developed games that are nominated for things. I know that's not really it, but we're also kind of short on time and we have a listener question, so that'll also just be faster. So for game of the year, just kind of like Japan developed games. We have Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and was that it? I mean, Ghost of Tsushima isn't Japan developed, but it is obviously Japan inspired. Yeah. Best action game: Neo 2 and Streets of Rage 4. Best action adventure game. Oh no, there wasn't anything on. Well, Ghost of Tsushima, but there's no thing on there. Best art direction. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Ghost of Tsushima. Best audio design. Ghost of Tsushima. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Best day. Oh no, that's okay. There's nothing there. Best family game. We have Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, and Paper Mario: The Origami King, which I did not expect that to be nominated at all for anything. Best fighting games. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, One Punch Man: A Hero Nobody Knows, which is a really weird nomination. Street Fighter 5 and Under Night In Birth EXE Late CLR.
Yeah.
One Punch Man. A game nobody should have voted for, but I digress.
I think people have just heard it, like in that category. Yeah. It's like, oh, I've heard of One Punch Man, sure.
Yeah, I've seen that anime.
Best game direction: Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima. We gotta skip. Best mobile game: Genshin Impact and Pokemon Cafe Mix are the two Japan developed. Or no, Genshin Impact is not Japan developed, but we have talked about Genshin Impact. It's Chinese developed, but we've been talked about Genshin Impact due to its immense popularity in Japan, and its obvious Japanese inspiration. Yeah. I don't know. Genshin Impact and Among Us. I think it's going to be between those two. Among Us is just more because of the just how popular it's gotten in the past couple months. Mm-hmm. Even though it's like a 2-year-old game, it's just insane.
I'm trying to remember the actual final voting. Is that by fans or is that by actual people voting amongst the community?
I believe.
Okay.
I think it depends on the category. There is one category that's fan voted, but these awards, the main awards, are given or voted on by the media industry.
We also
quote unquote.
Now, if that was the case, then I say fan vote. Yeah. Genshin Impact would get it. I think there's a way higher. And honestly, this is some insight for DualShockers. We're constantly pressured. I wouldn't say we're pressured. We're constantly told, like, hey, we should focus on this game that everyone keeps talking about because the numbers on them keep growing. So I think it's a sleeper cell. Everyone's talking about Among Us. But
I
really
just got the new big update, too.
If it was that, of course.
Best multiplayer game, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, which is weird because I hear a lot of people say the multiplayer is garbage because there's nothing to do.
Yeah, I think that's an odd choice. I think it's a cool idea and concept, but I think it's an odd choice to be on this list.
Yeah, I think what the idea during the voting was, let's not look at the technical merits of it. Let's not look at it like we're scoring it from 1 to 10. Let's look at what it sets out to do and how it impacts, like, you playing with someone across the world, like families playing together. Does it do what it sets out to do? I think that's what the thinking was.
Best narrative: 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. That's a Was not expecting that.
Well, it won writing or narrative awards in Japan, so I'm guessing it
Final
translates
Fantasy VII
well
Remake,
to the Western audience.
We're gonna skip best ongoing game and best performance. Well, best performance: Daisuke Tsuji as Jin in Ghost of Tsushima. I always like the best performance award, but I personally think I want Naji Jeter as Miles Morales in Spider-Man to win that one. Best RPG: Final Fantasy VII Remake, Genshin Impact, Persona 5 Royal, Yakuza Like a Dragon. That is a stacked category.
Yeah.
If I'd had to guess, I would think Final Fantasy VII Remake wins that award.
It has a high chance, but
I want Yakuza to take it.
Yakuza could take it, though.
Yakuza could take it, but in terms of the RPG-ness of it, I don't think it is all that new when compared to the previous Yakuza games, and in terms of its combat, it's either going to be compared to Dragon Quest or Persona 5, and from what I've heard critically, it doesn't match that level of quality just yet. So that's what I'm thinking. It might be close. It might be a runner-up,
Best
but
score
I think
music, Final
Fantasy
Fantasy VII
here.
Remake, and cause that's the only Japan-developed game in that category, and I think that's going to take it. Yes.
It could. Is Hades in that same category?
Yeah.
Cameron brought up a good point on Twitter.
Hades
he said,
is
like,
super good.
it was not a good point, but it was like funny. He was like, everybody keeps telling me Hades music is good, but anytime I play Hades, I don't even remember hearing music. I'm like, wait, what? You're just so focused on. Yeah.
That's funny. Cameron plays games a certain way, so take it with a grain of salt.
I'm kind of surprised Doom Eternal got a nomination for best score / music, because there was
There's a big contention about that.
Yeah, exactly. Mick Gordon composed it for a whole lot, but it got remixed by Gearbox.
Some engineer,
Gearbox?
right?
No, it wasn't Gearbox. It's software. So yeah, so some engineer at its software, or not some engineer, but an engineer at its software then redid that. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
Hey, if they end up winning it, shout out to that engineer for coming in with the win. You know?
He's getting a big payday.
Yeah. So
no, he'll just be like, "Hey, good job."
Other
Thank
Japan-developed games in the rest of the categories. So we're gonna move on to our listener questions, where we have. This is kind of a. I don't know if. I guess we should try to have brief answers since we're kind of going over time, but So this is from Sarah. What's your favorite RPG or RPG series? What, in your opinion, makes an RPG great or stand out among other RPGs? That's a hard one. I don't know what my favorite series is. My favorite RPG is probably Pokemon Soul Silver. That's the game I can replay like every single year. Once a year, twice a year. Those are in like top 10.
Not
Yokai
Dragon
Watch,
Quest or Yokai Watch? I'm
but
shocked.
Dragon Quest is in top 10. I need to play more. I've only finished Dragon Quest 11 so far. And 5. 11 and 5.
Oh, okay. What about you, Mario?
I'm probably gonna say it's gonna be a toss-up between Persona and what was it's really more of a tactics game, but I'd still say it. Final Fantasy Tactics.
It still counts. It still counts.
Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
That was my entry into that series, and I've constantly remember for a decade emulating it on my PC, just trying to play it. I never get past a certain point, but I love that game dearly for some reason. The story very simple. 3 kids all of a sudden end up in a mystical world, and it's very film-like, and I enjoy it. Yeah. So I have a theme. But and then of course Persona fits that same boat of just these kids in a bigger situation that is bigger than themselves, but they overcome it and become friends along the way. Really welcome. Really, when it comes to like great standout, or what it means to what makes an RPG great, really it is the mechanics. I've noticed the mechanics in terms of how they coalesce with each other and your party members, specifically Persona 5, specifically Persona 5 Royal. The fact of all the upgrades and changes with the baton pass and everything is just so great. And then how your characters can accommodate each other depending on their different skills and abilities when it comes to tactics games. I also got really deep into Fire Emblem last year with 3 Houses.
Nice.
And those giving me some of those feels. Yeah, I'm at the last boss and I quit. I couldn't do it.
No, I get it. I definitely get it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You don't have to do series. You can do favorite RPG
series if I'd have
like
to,
in general or series.
Favorite RPG is going to be tough. Favorite RPG. Well, if I'm going to say RPG, it's going to be.
Never heard of that one.
Gosh, that is tough. No, I want to say The Witcher 3,
JRPG.
but if we're gonna have to relegate it to Japan only, if I had to say my favorite JRPG,
Final Fantasy VIII. No, just kidding.
Gosh, no.
Shout out to Final Fantasy VIII.
It's gonna be a toss up for me between. Gosh, my favorite is Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia or Final Fantasy 15. Yeah. I'm conflicted. I wanted to say 7 Remake, but that might be recency bias. But I'm going to say Final Fantasy 15 because of the sense of brotherhood between the 4 main characters. The themes of religion and having a messiah figure within that religion. Just the epic battles all throughout, especially at the end, which were insane. The Leviathan battle, everything else. The story isn't that great. Even with all the things they patch into it, it's still not as cohesive as it could be. But the sense of scale and wonder and kind of the release you get after waiting 10 years to play a game, I don't think anything can beat it. And Tales of Symphonia is a game I got into with that introduced me to RPGs really, and I played that 3, 4, 5 times all the way through, and I'm just so familiar with the world, the characters, and they just feel like home. And I think that's why I love the Tales series so much, because it feels like home. And real quick, if I had to say what makes an RPG stand out or great, it could be either the world, it could be the characters, it could be the art direction, it could be the gameplay. Because if I'm thinking about battle system alone, I'd say Grandia 3. If I'm thinking of art direction, it would be Persona 5.
So
if I'm thinking about the characters, it'd be Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
So for me, it's like all those things, but as long as one of those things, there's something there, one of those things you mentioned is engaging to me, and it keeps me in. Like Xenoblade, I did not expect. I played Xenoblade Definitive Edition earlier this year. I did not expect to be interested in the world and story as much as I was, like at all. The gameplay, I didn't like as much, but the story and the world is what kept me going. Which is the opposite for some other games, you know. No.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
I'm curious.
In that
have you
one.
played Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
Yeah. Well, that and some other things.
Because of all of the fan service. Okay. I'm we can't also count out the music. Music also plays an integral role in an RPG. I mean, you have Nobuo Uematsu,
Kohei Tanaka,
just to name one
Sakuraba,
prolific creator in that space. You have Yoko Shimomura. Yeah, there are so many cool, great composers in that space, and and they just elevate what you already have to another level. And I mean, you can close your eyes and hum simple and clean, and you're instantly transported to all those memories of you playing Kingdom Hearts. Or you hear Aerith's theme or Tifa's theme, and Final Fantasy just becomes so vivid. Or you hear
the Blue Dragon boss fight music that was sang by the lead singer, or I think the lead singer of the band Deep Purple.
I mean, there's that. My pick for battle music would be Apocalyptic Noctis.
That's a good one.
Apocalypse Noctis, Final Fantasy 15. When you hear that piano just crash and thunder, it just sends shivers up my spine, and I'm just rearing to go for a fight. And that's just an amazing quality that music brings out in you. It just elevates everything. Feels like that for me,
but I forgot what it was called. It's a specific battle music, but yeah.
Do you have any favorite music in the JRPG space, Mario?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, Persona 5 is just like up there when it comes to music.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the music I listened to in Final Fantasy VII Remake I thought was phenomenal. So if that ends up winning best score, I definitely could see it. I even emphasized it in our review for the video review for Final Fantasy because it was just so beautiful. Some other ones I probably come to mind. I think Three Houses have some pretty solid music.
Joe Hisaishi,
Ni no Kuni had some good music from the little that I've played of that as well. Yeah, exactly. So I would say, there's definitely some great examles that I've had to experience.
I have one more.
But yeah, those are my prime ones.
Real quick, there is an episode of... wait. There's an episode of Strong Songs, Kirk Hamilton's music podcast that... I think it was Triple Click, where he did a special episode on the Final Fantasy VII Remake soundtrack, specifically Aerith's theme, I think, or the main theme, and he breaks it down so well and reveals the layers that are added to it by the game's primary composer, because it's all an adaptation of Uematsu's work, and the new composer does something so great with the game, with the sound, and it just I can't explain it. It just makes it a lot more magical. What I was going to say was
my last thing was, so in Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, who has the same composer, is the same composer as Danganronpa, and some of the music sounds kind of similar, but then you get to the Royal Knights theme, and it's like, oh my god, are we in like a Souls game now or something? Because there's just like a choir, and it's like, it's intense music, and I love it. I suggest looking that up if you haven't, because it catches you off guard when you don't know. It's like, oh, I'll do the Royal Knights side quest thing, I'll go battle. Whoa, what happened to the music? Not that the rest of the music is bad or anything. It's just like surprises you with just that switch.
Yeah.
So yeah, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Royal Knights theme. Recommend looking that up. Okay, I think we're gonna call it there. Thank you, Mario, for being our guest this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you, and do you have any work they should be looking forward to?
Friday morning, tomorrow.
When exactly will the first episode release here?
Tomorrow? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I'll hold off on something, but yeah, you can basically find me at that Mario Rivera at Twitter. Where I'll be sending the new fleets. I'll be sending so many fleets. You'll enjoy every single one of my fleets. Of course, so you can always contact me there, and my email is there as well for any inquiries. You'll find primarily my work at youtube.com/DualShockers, where you'll see the last video I worked on, of course, was the Spider-Man Miles Morales review. And then, of course, a friend of mine made a video. Actually, this is great. My friend made a video where he asked his wife to explain the plot to Yakuza to him, because she just watched him play it.
Nice.
And it's the video is called Yakuza told through my wife, I think is the name of the video. So definitely check it out. I added some extra spice in there to make it funnier. But yeah, it's about a 13-15 minute video. Definitely check that out as well. Give that video some love. But yeah, that's where you'll primarily find me. Twitch.tv/thatmarivera. What's Good Games. I'm on the last episode. So many other things that you can find.
Well, it was a pleasure, and we definitely love to have you back.
Let us know if there's
once again.
If there's a specific Japanese game that's coming out, and you're like,
thank you for this opportunity.
I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, when Scramble comes out,
that's going to be a big one. All right. So this has been us. As always, keep on gaming. Stay safe. Wash your hands, wear a mask,
stay safe,
all that.
Wash your hands.
Be kind to each other.
Be kind to each other.
Yep. Matane.
Okay. And we'll see you next time. Bye.